This is a quick chat application. Anyone can create a chat room. It will generate a unique chat room link, share this link with someone, and just start chatting. So, some of the features are you don't need any authentication, and you can add as many users as you want in this single chat room. So, let me show you how we can create this application in 3 simple steps. Alright, so in the first step, we'll set up our front end. We'll be using Next.js, but you can follow along with any other framework as well. In the second step, we will initialize our backend on AWS and we'll set up an GraphQL API. And finally, in the third step, we'll consume that GraphQL API from our front end. We'll understand how real-time communications are working with different AWS services. Right, so this is the plan, and all the sections are marked as chapters, so you can skip or rewind any section if you want. And before going into the tutorial, I have a small request for you. If you are interested in AWS or cloud computing in general, then please subscribe to this channel. That would be a tremendous help for me. That being said, let's start with the tutorial. Alright, so let us initialize a new Next project. Let me copy this command and paste it here. For the project name, let's call it ChatApp on AWS. Okay, yeah, we'll be using TypeScript, ESLint, Tailwind CSS, and the new app router. And all the other defaults are fine. Alright, so Next.js has been installed properly. Let me cd into that directory. Let me open my code editor. I'm using VS Code here. Alright, and let's run it. So npm run dev. Let me open our development server. So localhost 3000. Yeah, so we have a proper Next.js boilerplate. Alright, so in the source directory set app, we're having our single page. Let me remove everything from here. Let me return a div, and inside that, let's just call hello. In the layout, whatever font is there, that's fine. Let me change the title. Let's call it ChatApp. Quick chat application. All right, rest of the things are fine. And in the CSS, let's just have this Tailwind directives. Rest of the things, we don't need that. Favicon, for now it's fine. Let's go back, and yeah, we are getting our hello properly. So we have a starting point now. The next thing is we'll be installing this library. Okay, I will give this link in the description. So this is basically some UI components to build any chat application, right? So I have opened the storybook for this open source library, or open source component I should call it, and you can go through. Like, they have a pretty rich component collection to build the chat UI application, right? And they have proper documentation as well, and anyway, in this video we'll be showing you. So let me copy the first component and npm I, and we have to install a couple of styles as well. So let me copy that, npm I styles. All right, that is done. Now let's do one thing. Let's have a component directories, and inside that, let's call it chat tsx. So we have a chat component, and let me just copy the whole thing from here. So this is the import statement. We don't need import React, and they are importing everything, like all the style as styles, but we don't need that. We just want to import like this. So import that style sheet, and rest of the things we will return from this component. Right, it's not happy. I don't know why that is, but let's figure out. So we are having a div, and they are having some inline style. They're giving it a height of 500 pixel. We'll be worrying about the styling part later, right? There's a main container, chat container, message list, and another message component, I guess. And if I take the options here, we have to pass two properties. One is direction. Let's see what is under direction. By the way, if you are using TypeScript, and I'm on a Mac, so I'm just pressing Ctrl and a spacebar, so it is giving me these options, right? So let's call it like direction be most probably like if the text is incoming or outgoing. So let's make it incoming for now, and in the position, I don't know, first, last, normal, single. So this is most probably like if it's a single text, then that will be single. And there can be multiple text in a group, right? So let's say when you are texting someone, you can first type hi and then you send that, then you can type how are you. And in that situation you are sending two text, but in the chat window it will show first hi, then at the last it will show how are you. Okay, if you are sending three or many more, then the first one is first, in the in between ones will be normal, and the last one is last. And if it is a single text, then it is single. Okay, I don't know if it is making any sense or not, but yeah, it will. So let's make it single for now, and rest of the things are fine. So let me open our page component and let's render this. Let's see what happens. So are we calling it chat? Let's call it chat component. So chat component, let's give it a save. Let's run the server again, npm run dev. Right now if I hit refresh, I should have something in the screen. Right, so there will be a problem because I'm using next 14, right? So as we are using many client components here, so we have to mark this file as use client. I keep forgetting this. Okay, anyway, yeah, so you can see this is the chat window, and let me open the, yeah, this format, and I'm selecting iPhone 14 Pro Max. That's fine. If I hit refresh, there's some error here, warning. Oh, this is some warning, we can ignore that for now. All right, so now we are having this chat, and if I write and hit enter or click this button, nothing is happening. And yeah, there must be some event handlers for that. We'll be going through the documentation together and we'll be finding out that. But yeah, if I'm sending the text as a single text, and this is incoming on or outgoing on, this is incoming on. Okay, let me copy this, and let's have another message component, and this time maybe let's make it outgoing. Right, position again single, let's call it hi there. Okay, and the send time just now sender, these are fine, we're not using those component yet. Yeah, so you can see hello, hi there. Perfect, it's working properly. And if I'm having multiple text message like this, and if I'm marking it single, let's call it hello my friend 2 maybe. Let's keep it a save. So hello my friend 2. Okay, but this position thing is I can mark it first and mark it last, then yeah, this formatting is better. So you can see here and here we're having hard edges. So that's completely the formatting part. Right, so we have a UI component now, and we have to just worry about how to pass this chat. Okay, all right, so let us understand a very crucial concept of our application, that's the routing. Right, so this is the home page, as we are not having any authentication layer. So if you are just entering the URL, you will be landed to this kind of home page where we are just asking the user enter your name to create a chat room. Okay, so let's say the user is entering user 1 and clicking on this create chat room, and that will take him to a page like this. Okay, so the URL, and we'll be creating a chat room ID. Okay, and whatever username he has entered, so URL, chat room ID, and the username. Okay, and whatever username is present in the path parameter, that will be the receiver of the chat. So if this is the chat window or chat room, then this user 1 will be the receiver, and whatever other people he will be adding, those will be sender. Okay, now to add any user to this chat room, this user 1 will share this URL, so URL and just the chat room ID. Okay, so if anyone is entering this URL and the chat room ID on their browser, they will get a page like this. So URL and chat room ID, and based on the chat room ID, we'll be collecting the username of that user who is trying to enter that chat room. Right, so this is the message, enter your name. So he'll be entering, let's say he is entering user 2, and also user 1 has shared this link with user 3 as well. So user 2 is entering his name and clicking on enter, and in that situation we will be having users like this. So user 1 is the receiver, and user 2 and user 3 is the sender or the guest. Okay, now if I see the whole thing from user 2's perspective, then the URL will look like this. So once he is entering the user2 name and hitting enter on the user2's browser, the URL will look like this. So URL, chatroom ID, and user2. And this case, user2 is the receiver and rest of the people present in the chat room will be the sender. Okay, so this is the concept. At first, if anyone is trying to create a chat room, you will be just collecting their name, hit create chat room, it will create a chat room. Okay, and he will be able to share this link, URL and chat room ID with others. And based on the URL parameter, we'll be deciding what is the user's chat room and what is the username. Okay, so this is the plan. Now let us implement this in our front end. Alright, so inside the source directory, as I'm using next 14, so we'll be having a directory based routing. So in the app directory, let's create a dynamic route called chatroom ID. And let's have a page here, chatroom. Okay, let's create a new interface called page params. And the parameter will look like this. So chatroom ID, and that will be string. Okay, this will be inside params, I guess. Params, yeah, chatroom IDs. So let's take the props from here. This will be page props. Perfect. And let's take the params. And let us just print a message. You are about to enter the chat room. And let's just pass the chat room ID here. Okay, let's give it a save. Our development server is running. So let me go back to our development server and let's add some random ID. So yeah, you are about to enter the chat room with this ID. Okay, now chat room is ready. Let us add the user ID part. So user ID, and similar thing, let me just copy paste this page here. Perfect. And let me just call it page. And inside this, in the params, we will be having the user ID as well. So user ID string. So this time I should call it you are in the chat room, this with username. Let's just pass the params.user ID. Okay, let's give it a save. Now let's say I'm user1. So yeah, you are in the chat room. This is the chat room ID with username user1. So we have successfully added the routing, and this page we will be having basically whatever we are showing in the home page. So let me actually render this chat component in this page. So let's do that. So chat component, perfect. Okay, and let's work on the styling a bit. So let's make it container, and we are using Tailwind, so I have to add this as well. So I want to center the container, center true, and let's give it a padding as well. Padding of 2 rem is fine. Okay, so this is a container, and max width is screen small is fine, and empty 20. So this is the chat room and the user. Now user 1 is the receiver here. Okay, and once you are on the home page, we should just say create a chat room. Okay, so div create a chat room, enter your name. Yeah, so we have successfully implemented the routing. All right, so let us initialize our backend, and for the backend we'll be using AWS Amplify. If you're not familiar with that, let us quickly open the documentation. And we have a full crash course on AWS Amplify. If you want to get familiar with that and how to install that, configure that, you can follow that. Okay, so I'm assuming you at least familiar with AWS Amplify. And if you're just following along, this should make sense as well. So to initialize an Amplify project, you have to run this command, Amplify init. So it is asking the project name. So let us call it ChatApp. All right, so whatever the default it is taking, that's kind of fine. Name ChatApp, environment deb, and the rest of the things are fine. And for Next.js, we will be changing this build and start command. Okay, so for now, let us just initialize with this project. Let me choose an AWS profile. All right, so the initialization is completed. Now let us add an API. Okay, so to do that, Amplify add API. Perfect. And let us choose this GraphQL on. Whatever default is there, that's fine. And single object with fields is fine. So we have added the GraphQL API for our project. So to find out the schema file, let us go to this backend API, and this is the schema file, schema.graphql. So they are giving us a dummy schema. So let us actually create our model. So let's call it chat, and it will be a model. Perfect. So basically this model directive will create necessary DynamoDB database tables and the front end query structure as well. Okay, so every chat will have an ID and will have a chat room ID as well. So basically which chat room this chat belongs to. Okay, so this is an ID as well, and it will have some text. Okay, the main content. Perfect. And the sender, this is a string as well. Let me delete this one. And for now, let's say this is our schema. So for every chat, we'll be having an ID, the chat room ID, the text, and the sender. Okay. Now, with the Amplify CLI, you can compile this GraphQL schema. So whatever base schema you are providing, after the compilation, Amplify will create a superset of this schema. Okay, it will add different types on this schema as well. So to do that, what you have to do is you just have to type Amplify API and this GraphQL compile. Run this command and let's see what happens. So if you are doing any mistake in your schema, it will throw an error. So it did not find anything. So it has successfully compiled. Now the compiled schema you will find here. So inside the build directory, you can see there is another schema. Okay. So if I open this schema, you can see there are many things there. Okay. So too many types, and it has created this query, subscription, mutation, everything for us. Okay, and if I see this base type, this chat, so these are the property we have added. Okay, but you can see it has added this two new property as well. It's created add and an updated add. Right. So basically with this created add, we want to sort all the chat. Okay, and in a moment we will be using this created at to add a global secondary index sort key. Okay, if these things are not making any sense, just wait a couple of seconds, it will. All right, so this is our schema. Now this model directive will create a DynamoDB table. Okay, and on the table, on each row, we'll be having this information, this ID, chatroom ID, text, sender. Okay, and this ID will be the primary key or the partition key. So you'll be able to identify or query any chat by this ID. But we have another access pattern. Okay, that is we want to know all the chat that is present with this chat room ID. Okay, so we'll be having a chat room ID, and with that particular chat room ID, we want to collect all the chat. Okay, so to support that, there is a concept inside DynamoDB that is called global secondary index or indexing, right? So we'll be creating a global secondary index by making this chat room ID as the primary key. Okay, so that we can retrieve all the chat by this chat room ID. So to create an index, you just have to type index. Okay, so this is a custom directive, and if you want to learn more, you can obviously visit the Amplify documentation. Okay, we have to give this index a name. So let's call it by chatroom ID, and we have to mention the query fields as well. Okay, so basically for our front end, it will generate some query. So let's call it chats by chatroom, and in this particular index we want all the chats to be sorted by this created at. Okay, so let me actually copy this and let me paste it here, and let's do it like this. So sort key fields, and let me copy the field name created at. Perfect. Okay, so we are creating an index by chat room, and there will be a query field called chats by chat room, and the sort key field is this created at. Okay, so if I compile now, Amplify API GQ compile, let's see if we do have any error or not. So looks like everything is working. Now if I go to this build schema, you can see in the query part we should have a new query. Yeah, chats by chat room. Okay, so we'll be able to retrieve all the chat by this chat room. Right, so we have perfectly created our schema. All right, now that we have our schema in place, let us try to push that to our backend. Okay, so to do that, you just have to type amplify push, and if you want, you can mention the API, but if you do not mention that, it will pick up all the changes from the backend directory, right? If you have added any other category, it will pick up that change as well. So you can see it is giving you a list. So there is only one change in the API, and the operation will be create. So it will be creating that API. Okay, so we are okay with that. Hit yes, and now it is asking you if you want to generate some front end code. Okay, so yeah, we want that. Let us generate code for TypeScript, and rest of the defaults are just fine. Okay, and once this is deployed, I will show you what are the things it has created. All right, so we have successfully deployed our GraphQL API, and this is the API endpoint and the API key, right? And from our front end, we can now talk to this GraphQL backend. Okay, so let me close these files and let me show you what are the things it has created. So the first thing it has created is this AWS expose and amplify configuration. So in this configuration JSON, like these two files are similar. One is JavaScript and one is JSON. Okay, they are having all this region, the endpoint, API key, and everything. Okay, that you need in your front end. And it has created a new folder, this GraphQL folder, and inside this folder you can see you have all these queries. Okay, so you have get chat, list chat, chats by chat room. Okay, those kind of query it has generated, also the mutations and subscription. Okay, so we'll be using these in our front end to get notified when a chat is created, to create chat, to create a chat room, those kind of things. By the way, Amplify is doing this code generation using a library called GraphQL Code Gen. Maybe you are familiar with that. This is nothing to do with Amplify. This is like GraphQL Code Gen things, and this is the GraphQL Code Gen configuration file. Now let me show you another feature. So this is my AWS console, and under the hood, Amplify is creating a service from AWS AppSync, right? So to go to this service, just search for AppSync. Okay, and this is the GraphQL API it has created. Okay, ChatApp and the environment name. So let me go there, and you can click on this run a query. So click on this run a query, and this is the GraphQL playground. Now if you are familiar with GraphQL, then you know this kind of playground. Okay, so you can run all the query that you have from here. Okay, so let us actually do that. Let us see what are the queries we are having. So we can get all the chats. Okay, we can list chats, we can get chats by chat room. So let's consider a scenario. Let's say we want to create a chat. So let us select this mutation. Okay, add mutation, and we want to create a chat. So let's call it create chat. Perfect. So let me select this create chat on, and these are the input we have to pass. Okay, so chat room ID, let's say ID 123. Okay, and this ID will be generating this ID in our front end. Created at, if you do not pass anything, AWS will automatically generate a created at timestamp. Okay, and then ID, this will be auto generated as well. Sender, let's say this is user 1. All right, and as we are just creating this chat, let me pass this text. So user on has created this chat room. Okay, so this will be the first text, or this will be the first message in the chat room. And let us get all this back. Okay, so let me run this create chat mutation. So we are having a chat now. Okay, now let us run another query. This time the query will be list chats by chat room. Okay, so let me change the query name, chats by chat room. Perfect. Now let us pass this chat room ID equal to ID 123, and let's select this, all these things. Okay, let me run this query, and I'm getting this. Okay, let us create another chat. So now user on has created this chat room. Okay, so he is sending a message. Let's say this message, hi there. Okay, so create chat. So I have created another chat. Now let's say he shared this link. The link, we will be understanding how we can share the link, right? He shared the link with someone, and that is, let's say, user 2, and user 2 is responding with hello. Okay, let's create that chat. Perfect. Now if I just list all the chat by this chat room, then we are getting all this list, right? So you can see by the timestamp it is like sorted. Okay, and you can change this sort direction as well. So here if you select this sort direction, you can actually change this from ascending to descending. Okay, if I run this now, you can see now it is descending in descending order. So this is the playground, and we have some data to work with. All right, now from Amplify, we'll be using a library to talk to this GraphQL backend, and let us set up our front end to do that. Okay, so this is the library I'm talking about. Let me open the documentation. Make sure you are in generation 1 and version 6, right? And if you go here, API GraphQL, and set up GraphQL API. Okay, so these are the things we have already performed. We have added an API, we have added this schema, our schema, and now we have to install this. So let me copy this and let us install this library. And after that, they're suggesting we have to run this command. Okay, so they're bringing this Amplify from AWS Amplify, and this config from this configuration JSON. Okay, this file, this configuration JSON, and they're configuring this Amplify. And if you are using Amplify for anything, you have to perform this step. And let's come back to this client generation part afterwards. Okay, now as we are in a Next.js environment, and we want to configure this Amplify in our browser, so we have to use a client component. Okay, maybe you are already familiar with client component. So let me open our app directory, and we want to configure those in our layout. Okay, but this is a server component, so we cannot directly perform the client code here. So to do that, in the components directory, let us create a new component called context. All right, and actually inside Next.js, whenever you are having any client side context or anything like that, let's say you are using Redux, so you are basically initializing the context in this fashion. So in this file, we will be initializing our Amplify as well. Okay, so let me make it as client component. So use client, and this will be the component. So context provider, perfect. And let us open this layout, and let me copy this type definitions from here. So basically this context provider will receive some JSX children. Okay, and let us just return that. And if you are using any kind of actual context, then you can like wrap this children with that context. But for now, we don't have anything, so we are not passing anything. Okay, so we are having a perfect client component. So now inside layout, let me bring that context provider, perfect, and let me pass this children. Okay, now inside this context provider, we can run some code that will only run in our client. So if I do like console log hello, all right, and let us run our development server, you will see in the server we will get console log this hello. Okay, so localhost 3000, and let me open the development console as well. Okay, so in the client side we are getting hello, and in the server side as well we are getting hello, but we do not want that. Okay, so to only run this code in client side, let me have a if statement, that is if type of window is not equal to undefined, then only run this console log hello. Perfect. So let's give it a save. Let's clear out this terminal, and if I hit refresh now, you can see I'm getting hello here, but here I'm not getting anything. Okay, so that's kind of done. So let me copy the setup code now. Let me copy everything from here, and let's not worry about this client. Perfect. And let me just configure Amplify here. Okay, and these will be coming from from the source directory. Perfect. So let's give it a save, and everything should be working properly. Yeah, everything is working nicely. And now let's have a lib directory, and in this directory let us create a file called client.ts, and let me initialize the client here. So let me copy this code again. We don't need this, yeah, generate client, and let me export it from here as well. Perfect. Now in our application, wherever we want to call this GraphQL endpoint, we can use this client. Okay, so there are some methods inside this client. So client.graphql you can see. Okay, so we can use this to call our GraphQL endpoint. Okay, now let us use this client in our application. We'll be using the chat component in this space, by the way. So we are already importing this. Perfect. Now let me actually do like this. So let's have a new state. And as we are bringing use state, we have to mark this component as use client. Perfect. And these will contain all the chats, right? Perfect. And let me bring the type from here. So if I go to this api.ts, so this is the file it has created, right? So let me search for chat, and this is the type for chat. Okay, so let me bring that, and this will be chat array. So let's initialize with an empty array. So let me remove this chat component for now, and let us json.stringify and whatever chat we are having. Okay, perfect. Now let's have a use effect hook, and inside this use effect we can call that client. So client.graphql, and we want to get all the chat by the chat room id, right? So let me pass an object here, and we have to pass the query. Okay, so query will be chats by chat room. Okay, that is coming from this GraphQL query. Amplify auto generated this as well, right, from this file. Perfect. And we need to pass some variables as well, and these are like all these things are type safe. So if you take the options here, you can see I'm getting whatever things I can pass here, right? So I have to pass this chat room id. Perfect. And chat room id we are collecting from this parameter, so params dot chat room id. Perfect. And if you want, you can play with this sort direction, next token, those things, but right now this is just fine. Perfect. And this will return as a promise. So let's have a then block, and it will have the response like this. Perfect. And let's call set chats. From response there is a data, and inside the data we are having chats by chat room, and inside that there is a thing called items. So inside that items array we're having all these chats. Okay, and yeah, this should work now. Let me give it a save and let us run our development server. So we have created a chat for chatroom id 123 and user 1. If I go there, you can see I'm getting all these chats, right? Now our next job will be, I want to show all this chat with that chat component. Okay, so let's quickly do that. So in the components, this is our chat component. Perfect. Let's have a quick type here. So interface chat, and for this message it should have an id first of all, and then the sender, then the text. And right now let's not worry about this time and the direction. So let's just have, is it incoming or not? So incoming boolean. Perfect. So now I can actually do it like this. So let's have some props here, and we're expecting some chats, and that will be this chat array. Perfect. Now let me map over these chats here. So chats.map, and let me pass this message component. So the key will be chat.id. Perfect. And in the model direction will be, if chat.incoming, then this will be incoming, otherwise outgoing. Perfect. And for the position, let's have it as single for now, and message will be chat.text. Send time, let's not worry about that, and sender will be chat.sender. So let me remove this message components. Let's give it a save, and in our page, instead of stringifying this chat array, let me pass that chat component, chat comp. Perfect. And chats, and whatever chats we are having here, let's call it chats. So let me pass the chat here, and we want to pass this incoming thing as well. So if the chat.sender is not matching with this param.sender, then it is an incoming message, right? So if I show you here, you can see in the parameter we are having this user1, right? So we'll decide from that. So let's do it like this. So chat.sender is not equal to params dot user id. Perfect. And rest of the things are fine. So if I give it a save, let's go back to our, yeah, it's working perfectly. So this is the outgoing messages and this is the incoming message, and we want to put the user id here as well. So let's search the documentation for chat scope, and message, with the message header I'll be able to pass this. So let me copy this, and I have to pass it as a children. So in the chat component, let me pass this as a children. We are not passing any send time, and this will be chat.sender. Perfect. Let me give it a save, and now it is showing user 2. Okay, so whatever we have done so far, it's working properly. Now let us work on the subscription part, right? We want to get real-time notification when someone is creating any chat. So let me open the documentation, Amplify documentation, and make sure you are on generation 1 and version 6, right? Click on this API GraphQL and subscribe to real-time events. So this is the subscription pattern. We have to use that client, and same thing, you have to pass the query, and then you have to change this method. All right, so let us try to implement this. So this is our page, and before going into that, let me pass this array, dependency array. So that will be params dot chatroom id. Okay, let's take another use effect. Perfect. And this time also the dependency array will contain params dot chatroom id. Perfect. And now on the same client, let's call GraphQL again, and on the query we want to pass a subscription. Okay, this subscription, let me open the subscription on, yeah, on create. Perfect. So let me bring that, and this time in the variables we will be passing some filters, right? On the filter, this chat room id. So we want to get notified once someone is creating any chat on this chat room id, right? Chat room id is equal to this params dot chatroom id. Perfect. Now let's change those method dot subscribe, and you have to pass an object here and this next function. Okay, so inside this next there will be a value. Once we are having this value, let us call this set chats again. Okay, chats, and let's have a new array, and spread the old chats and whatever chat is coming. So data dot on create. Perfect. And one more thing, as we are subscribing to a event, we should return a function from this use effect to unsubscribe that. Okay, so when the component is unmounting, it will call this function to unsubscribe. So let me actually store this in a variable subscribe, or let's call it subscription. Perfect. And let's call this subscription dot unsubscribe. Perfect. Now to test this thing, let us go back to our playground, and we will manually create a chat. So we'll publish a mutation, and in the left side we'll observe that, like if we are getting that properly or not. So let us select that mutation. Perfect. And we want to create a chat. On the input side, for the chat room id, let us pass this one, id 123. So id 123, and sender, this time let us take user 3 maybe. Okay, and text will be hello everyone. All right, and let's return everything. Perfect. So now if I run this my mutation, let's see what happens. So you can see on the left side we are getting hello everyone. Okay, let's see with another user, let's say with user 4, I'm getting this. And if I am creating any message for user 1, then that should come on the right side. Okay, my mutation. Yeah. Okay, so everything is working properly. Now we just have to implement this, like when someone is typing anything here, we want to send that message. And before that, let us see like the filtering is working properly or not. So right now I'm creating a text for chat room ID 123. Okay, let us create a new ID. So this is a different chat room. Okay, so this message should not come here. Okay, so let me run this query now. So you can see this is unchanged, but if I change the ID here, chat room ID, I would see this hello everyone. All right, now we'll handle this sending options. Right now, if I type anything and hit enter, you can see nothing is happening. Okay, so let us go back to the documentation. So chat scope and docs and storybook, and from here we are interested on this message input, right? And on the message input, I'm having some controls. Yeah, and the controls, we can see there is a method called on send, right? So we'll be using this, and we want to hide this attach button as well, because right now we are not supporting that, right? This button. So let us start handling those. So in the components, let me open the chat one. Perfect. And first let us hide this attach button. So false. Perfect. So that should be gone. Yeah. And let's handle this on send. So for that, we want to take that as a props. So let us have an interface called props. Perfect. And on that interface, we want all the chats. That will be chat array and on send. And once we are calling this, we will be passing the text here. So text will be string, and we don't care what this function will return. Perfect. Let me replace these with props, and whatever one send is coming, let me destructure it from here, one send, and let us pass it here. One send is equal to one send. Perfect. Let me give it a save, and let us open our page component. Let's have an async function called handle send. Perfect. And it is expecting a text here that will be string. And for now, let us just console log the text. Okay. And on send is equal to one send. Sorry, handle send. Perfect. Let me open my terminal, and if I type anything and hit enter, you can see it is getting printed. And if I click on this button, this is getting printed as well. Okay, so one send handler is ready. Now we just have to call the mutation from this function, and this is the mutation we'll be using, right? Create chat. So let me use that. So we have it client dot graphql. Perfect. On the query, let us pass that mutation. So create chat, and on the variables, we have to pass this. So input chat room ID we're getting from the params. Sender is also coming from params, and the text. Okay, and rest of the things are not mandatory. Like if you do not pass this will be auto created for you. Okay, let's give it a save, and go back to our thing, hit refresh. Now basically I will be creating a chat, and that will trigger a mutation, and our application, we are listening for that mutation, right? So from that subscription, this chat will get populated. So let's see, is it working? Hit enter. Yeah. So now if I give it a refresh, you can see it is getting persisted. All right, now let's give it a full test. So in this window, you can see I'm logged in as user 1. Okay, so I will be able to see all the messages from the user 1 perspective. Okay, and this window is for user 2. So let's see if the communication is working properly or not. So if I send a message from here, so let's call it text from user 2. Perfect. Hit enter, and you can see I'm receiving this text. Okay, so text from user 1, and I can receive the text from here. as this is a multi-user chat room, we should support more than 2 users, right? So to test that, I have opened 3 window. So this is for user 1, user 2, and user 3. Now if I send a text from user 3, so hello from user 3, if I hit send, in these 2 window I should receive the text. Okay, so you can see it's working properly. So hello from user 1, and I can receive the text in this 2 window as well. So now this is a proper multi-user chat room. Now our chat room is working just fine, but if I just paste this chat room ID, like this is the link we'll be sharing with other users, right? It's just showing us you are about to enter chat room. So let us create this page quickly. So let me go back to our code editor, and this is the page. Okay, let me remove everything from here. Let's make it a container. So container max width screen small is fine, and let's give it a margin top 20. Okay, and we'll be using some hook inside this component, so let's mark it use client. Perfect. Now I don't want to create all the UI component from scratch, so let's install ShatCN in our system. So ShatCN UI. Perfect. And get started. Installation next.js, and we have to just run this command. So let me copy this for npm. Let's quit out from the server, and let's run this command. All right, so initialization has been done. Now I just want 2 components, that is the button component and the input component. So let me copy the button component first. Perfect. And let us copy the input component. Nice. Now here let us have a h1 tag. So enter into the chat room. Perfect. And let's have a class called text to excel, and let's have a div here. Margin top 4 is fine, space y2, and let's have the input component here, and in the placeholder let's call it enter your name, and let's have a button. Enter. Perfect. Let's check the UI. How does it look? So let me run the development server quickly. npm run dev. Okay, it looks good. So now I'll be entering my name, and if I hit enter, then it should take me to the chat room. All right. So to make that, let us first hook up this input. So let's call it name, set name, and these are React specific stuff, right? So value is name. So I'm just making this component a controlled component, and once I'm having the event, and let's just call this set name with event.target.value. Perfect. And let's have a new function called handle enter. Perfect. And on click, let's just call this handle enter. Perfect. So the first thing we will check if name.trim is an empty string, then just return. Okay, otherwise there's a thing called router, right, inside next.js. So let us have that router. So we'll basically programmatically navigate to that chat room page. Okay, so just call this router dot push. Perfect. And first params dot chat room id, and then whatever name the user is giving. Perfect. Name. All right, so it's kind of done, and let's give it a full test. So I'm on id 123, and if I just enter my name and hit enter, it should take me. No, it's not taking me. So what's happening? Okay, it is actually. Perfect. Let me go back, enter my name again. Yeah, it is taking me to the particular user page, and if I send any message now, that will go from my username. Okay, so let's see. If I hit send, this is coming from Shobon. So let me copy this link. Let us create a new incognito window. Let us see this chat room from user 1. So you can see there's a message from Shobon. All right, now in our home page, still we are just showing create a chat room, enter your name, right? So let us quickly create this home page. So source app, and this is that page. So let me remove everything, and let's apply our layouting rule. So this will be a container, max width screen small, margin top 20. Now let's have a h1 tag. Text will be 2xl, and let's just put create a chat room or create chat room, and let's have a div empty4 and space y2. Perfect. And let's have an input placeholder, enter your name, and let's have a button create. Let's give it a save. Let's see how this is looking. Yep. So create a chat room, enter your name, and you click on this create button, it will create that. Perfect. Now as we'll be using some React hooks, let's mark this use client. Perfect. And let's bring the state use state, and this will be username or set username. Perfect. So let me make this controlled. Value is username, on change e goes to set username e dot target dot value. Perfect. Now once someone is clicking on that button, will be just let me have the function, like will be a similar function like this. Okay, this handle enter. So let me copy this and let's paste it here. So that is username. Perfect. And let me bring the router, use router, that is coming from next navigation. And we have to first create the chat. So basically we'll be creating the first chat right in here. So let's call it handle create. Let's pass it here, one click, handle create. Perfect. So let's bring our client dot graphql, and query will be create chat. Perfect. Create chat, and in the variables, first we have to pass, inside the input we have to pass chat room id. So to generate the chat room id, let us install a library called uuid. Perfect. And inside this uuid there's a method called version 4. So we'll be creating a version 4 type uuid. So this is a random string, okay, if you are not familiar with uuid. So let's have the chat room id here. Chat room id is equal to, let's call this version 4, and yeah, chat room id, sender, that is that username, and text, let's make it a template string. Username has created this chat room link. We want to copy this link and the chat room id, right? So to get that inside JavaScript, if I go to this window dot location, I hope you can see this. So this is this location, right? Inside this location object we can find that host, like whatever origin we are having, host or origin, right? So we'll copy this origin and we'll be just appending that chat room id. All right, chat room link is window dot location dot origin. Perfect. This origin, and then the chat room id. Perfect. And rest of the things are fine. Let me give it a save. Yeah, I have to remove this as well, chat room id and username. So once that is done, we just have to, okay, we should make this check here. Perfect. And let's have a then block, and inside this then block we'll be rerouting that user. Okay, let's give it a save. Our local host is running. So let me give it a refresh. Now let's create a chat room. I'm just entering my name, hit create. Now you can implement this loading button and everything. Okay, I'm not showing you. Okay, perfect. So it has created a chat room, and Showan has created this chat room link is this. Perfect. Now if you just copy this link and share with someone else, It will just ask enter into the chat room, enter your name. Let's make it user 1, enter. And yeah, I'm in the chat room now. So hello, perfect. Let me close this, and yeah, I can see I'm getting this hello. All right, so in our application, this is the main two things that we can improve. Okay, the first one is the authentication part. So right now, whatever things we are doing, like in our schema, everything is open, right? Anyone can access anything. All right, anyone can create a chat, anyone can delete a chat, and all the other things. Now, if you want to restrict these things, you can go to the documentation and API GraphQL, and there's a thing called customize authorization rules. Okay, so this is pretty straightforward stuff. You can give it a read, and you will be able to restrict the different access. So for some model you may want to give public access, for some model you may want to give private access, group access, those kind of things, right? So you can give it a read, and if you want to restrict the endpoint or the models, then you can implement that. And the second thing is, currently we are using Next.js, right? So if you want to use this application, you have to run a Next.js backend. So instead of using Next.js, if you use a simple React application, then you have to use React router to get this kind of routing, right? You cannot have this directory based routing. So with the help of React router, you can implement all this routing, and the rest of the things like how we are querying the data, how we are using this GraphQL, all those things will be similar. Just replace this Next.js framework with any create React app or with React application, and you can export that and you can host that in S3 bucket. Okay, and Amplify has a service called hosting as well, and this is the hosting part, deploy and host, right? So you can go through this Amplify hosting and learn more about these things. All right, so that's all for this video. If you have any further questions, please let me know, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks.